It says prepare and live stream now.
All right, we're good. Says
It's up.
Good, thank you.
All right.
Hi there, and welcome to the extra November meeting of the Lake Lemon Conservancy District. We will try to be very efficient tonight. We have largely housekeeping items to tweak and attend to. And we've all seen those, so hopefully that will be very quick. Most importantly, we have the bond sale update that we want to make sure our public is kept up to date with. We will do the same scenario with roll call votes as needed, and just raise your hand when you'd like to speak. And Mary Jane, help me as always with the second set of eyes in case I miss somebody, as I once in a while do. All right. The meeting minutes for last meeting will be put with tonight's minutes and done in December. So that's why you don't see that on the agenda. That's our plan. First up is the bond sale update. Adam.
Yeah, so we had a successful bond sale. We only had one bidder, but it actually turned out to be a good rate. And the closing will be on Tuesday, the 24th. With this bond, we have a 2% interest rate for all the tickets through 2035, and then 2.5 for any of the remaining bond coupons. Cumulatively, if we run it for the entire 20 years, it'd come out to a 2.3% interest rate. So we'll be closing on Tuesday. So that was a successful sale, and probably a good time to be getting into the bond market as far as interest rates. So
absolutely,
we're good to go with that.
And Mary Jane, thank you for sitting in for me on the post call for that bond sale when I was out of town.
You're more than welcome. I added virtually nothing to the discussion, so well, but I was happy to be there, and I think it sounds like a good deal.
Okay, well, I did appreciate it. All right, the next three agenda items are all resolutions, as you can see. The first of those three is Resolution 611-3. It is a proposed addendum, basically, to the role of the LLCD treasurer, and that is that the treasurer will also, if we pass this resolution now, serve as the board secretary. And essentially the reasoning behind that is we've got lots more documents that need signing now, bond documents, finance documents, and certain ones do require a board secretary as opposed to a board recorder. And Alex has been fulfilling the role of board recorder, but we have to step our game up a notch, and that's the reason for this proposed resolution. Does anybody have any questions about that? It's essentially for signing purposes, and it would put Mike in that role, or whoever is the treasurer at any given point in the future.
I would move to approve the amendment to Resolution 61103 as presented.
Second. Thank you, Michael. I think Mary Jane, you were first to second. Mm-hmm. Is there any further discussion or any question on this? Well, there being none, I would propose that we are ready to vote. Once again, we'll do roll call. We'll go down the line, starting with Laura. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Michael K.
Aye.
Mary Jane.
Aye.
Michael B.
Aye.
Debbie.
Aye.
And I am an aye as well. Motion carries. Thank you. I guess I should note there that Debbie did ask in some email conversations, Patty Zelmer, our Ice Miller legal counsel, if she felt this was a reasonable move, and she did agree. Did I get that right, Debbie?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, got it. All right, item number 4 is another resolution, 11-2010. It is a district manager settlement project financial resolution, which we hope will further add clarity and transparency to this project that we're working on by clarifying Adam's role in signing. And I know Mike Blackwell had some thoughts on this that you shared. Mike, did you want to speak about that process? I think we've all seen that, but I didn't see anybody else particularly comment on it.
Well, as I stated in my email to you all, we're becoming a huge multi-million-dollar government agency. This will be 3 funds that we now have control of as a board, and not one board member, none, 0 of us, are check signers, which is essentially 0 checks and balances in my eye. So that's basically what I put in the email. Government agencies are supposed to have a checks and balance system. So, and again, as I put in there, it's not a question of trust, it's a question of fiscal responsibility. One of us should be the check signer of something, as we said, over $2,000. And anything over $2,000, Adam will just have to get a board member to sign, one of the 3 of us or one of the 2 of us or whatever. And those are my thoughts. And those aren't just my thoughts. Those are thoughts that come from people like Todd Caldwell from the State Board of Accounts, Kelly Watson from the DLGF, and I can go on. But I will support whatever the board decides. However, I think that we really need to think about the fiscal responsibility that we have as elected members to this money, this mass amount of money. So those are my thoughts, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Anybody else wishing to comment, weigh in on this? Mary Jane?
I would just say that from a business standpoint, and having worked in large corporate banking environments, it is not unusual for no board member to ever sign. Now they have different organizations, and to Mike's point, we're in a transition here. But I think this resolution kind of covers this as well as we need to at this point, because there should be a normal amount of business that management can conduct without bothering the board, just to keep things moving along. And it says that, beyond $2,000, it would require approval from another board member, from a board member. I shouldn't say another board member. So I think this resolution pretty much covers this concern.
One more comment.
Yeah, sure, Mike.
Mary Jane, it also says that he can sign a check for anything that has been prior approved by the board. And I think that's where I have, a little bit of trouble with. Again, you're allowing the employee of the Conservancy District to sign a check for $200 and whatever it's going to be, $250,000 by the time the interest is added. I think that's a little extreme. But again, if this body believes that we should have employees and another person who's not even an employee, who's a subcontractor, sign the check, I just think that's a little ridiculous. But that's just me. I'm sorry. I've worked in one more point. I've worked in government for 35 years. I was the chief of the fire department, the 5th largest fire department in the state. And no other employee was allowed to sign the check except for myself, the assistant chief, and the chief of staff. There was a chief of staff that was part of the government that signed the checks. It was just, that's just the way it was. But that's all really I have. So that part in the resolution, that last part, is the trouble that I have.
The language with over $2,000 without prior approval is directly from my financial resolution when I was hired on as a board manager. So that it has been in place currently. With regards to checks and balances, they were found adequate with all of the everything that's done with the DLGF with the audit, as far as having the approval, multiple signatures, monthly board meetings, approval of the allowance of vouchers. So within our audit, it was sufficient regarding DLGF.
Debbie, did you have a comment previously?
Yeah, I was just going to say that what we're kind of dealing with is the practicality of the situation and the timing of the claims and things of that nature. When I served a brief stint for the City of Bloomington Utilities, their timing and payments of their claims were such that I was the business manager, and we had to get them all to get approved, and then the checks got cut. And so, that's part of what we're dealing with, the accessibility. The other thing I'd say is, just from my years of auditing and looking at internal controls, two signature really doesn't mean much. I mean, a bank is not going to look to be sure that we got two signatures or anything like that. So the signature limits are just kind of, there. Now, having said that, I did tell Adam, and I don't know, Mike, if you're concerned about making the payments on the bond, because that's one thing, because we got Old National that is going to help us with all that, or if you're concerned with probably not a lot of checks, but we're going to have a lot of big checks written to the contractor, whoever we select. And I did say that I didn't think that I felt like we ought to have a second set of eyes on, like, a $200,000 check, like, oh, do we think that this work? Like, who would be in most places? And I don't know, Michael, you might have a feeling, but a lot of my clients, like higher ed, if they were building a building, there's some overall engineer, person that's like certifying that percent of completion is there and that it's okay to pay the bill. So I don't know. I'd like to know from your standpoint what you think, Mike, because I was never on the other side. I was always looking in,
For our construction projects, you're absolutely right. Smaller projects, not so much, but anyone that we've had that we have a architect or landscape architect or engineer of record, they're actually signing off to say, yes, they agree, they validate that the work has been done, so that it's not just, staff saying, yeah, we're in agreement that it needs to be paid, but there's a professional set of eyes that is saying, yes, this percentage of work has been done, or these items that are being billed for have been done, and recommend its approval. I mean, from how it's like, I don't sign any of the checks for Carmel Clay Parks. We've got a fiscal agent that is the city controller. So she's the one that actually signs all of our checks and has the delegation. But we've got certain items, sort of like you were describing, Debbie, that with your experience at CBU and similar to what Mike's talked about too, is that, we have certain things that you can approve to be done, but the checks still have to go to the claim sheet that's approved by the board before they're cut. Now we have, and I don't know if Lake Lemon qualifies for it, but we also have an advanced payment resolution that allows certain payments to be paid prior to board approval. So utility bills, there's a certain list that the State Board of Accounts allows those advanced payments for. But there's still a sign off. I'm signing off on them, and then it goes over to our controller to ultimately pay them, and there's documentation to support that. So I mean, the check and balance is making sure that a check doesn't get cut for something that hasn't been authorized by the board or someone that's duly noted. And
when are we going to get the bond? When are we going to have to make our first bond payment?
July of 2021.
And so was that kind of was the reason for this resolution? It looks like and we haven't even taken construction contracts. Should we try to work at rewording this? Do we need it today, or what are we thinking?
We don't need it today. It came up because of questions to Ice Miller regarding my authority to cut checks. So instead of, we wanted to put some straps on it, we could go ahead and do another financial resolution similar to my financial resolution at hiring, which is where this came from.
Right. And Mary Jane and I were in that discussion, and we talked about it, but I mean, honestly, it seems like maybe some of those payments really ought to be approved by the board. I mean, I was talking to Pam, like, I don't know who really would be the person that would say, hey, it's okay to pay this, but for those big checks, and it's going to be some big checks, maybe those do need to be approved before you sign them.
Michael, I think I saw you first. Okay.
I think one of the things maybe we want to consider doing is putting in kind of a flow chart for the different types of expenses that are related to it. So here's the process that it has to go through before whoever has the authorization, whether it's one or two or people are able to sign the check. And I'm not sure this resolution fully helps document that. So that way we can demonstrate that if it is only Adam that's signing, that it's not that he gets to randomly approve it, but that there's been a check and balance system that has taken place beforehand that protects him, protects the board, demonstrates that that it's a legitimate payment.
Mary Jane, is that what you're nodding like that's what you were going to say? Yes.
I agree completely.
Okay. Okay. Well, then it looks to me like we took a stab at this, but we just need to, if we don't have to have it this second, maybe we need to go back to the drawing board and take these comments, starting with Mike's, into consideration, and then about the bigger payments and bring it back in December. Does that make some sense?
Yeah, we can definitely work on it and try to work on a flow chart to put in there. I guess regarding the off-road truck purchase, though, we want to push that off until December.
Good question.
Pay off of the loan, which was in there, which.
Well, could we just do a could we just make a motion? Do we have to have it written that we allow you to, when the bond monies are received, to pay off the, is it with People's State?
People's State Bank, yeah. I think we could just do a motion for that.
That seems reasonable. And then we don't miss a deadline or accrue any more
Interest.
costs. Yeah. Okay, Debbie, would you like to make that motion if everybody's okay with that about the truck?
I move that upon receipt of the bond proceeds as stipulated in our bond resolutions, that Adam, our district manager, have the authority to pay off the debt to People's State Bank for the dump truck. And 35,000 of that dollars, this doesn't have to be part of the motion, but remember 35,000 was going to come out of that CD that just matured.
Correct.
So
good reminder.
only 200 will be coming out of the bond proceeds, right?
Correct.
Correct. Could I have a second to that motion, please?
Second.
Mary Jane, thank you. Any further questions or discussion on this topic of the truck?
Just discussion, and it just, so you're setting a precedence that he can sign a $200,000 check with board approval. He's got board approval. All I'm saying is you're going to set this precedence now that he's going to be able to sign a $200,000 check. And Adam, are you the only one signing the check, or does Shirley Watkins, who is not with us any longer, did she have to sign the check as well?
I would authorize the voucher and sign it, give it over to Shirley, and then she would actually cut the check, yes.
I mean, the checks are probably our scanned signatures, Mike. You know, I just, go ahead, Alec. Well, I'm not running the meeting.
Well,
Go ahead.
I was just checking to see if Laura Shell had seconded that motion. I was busy trying to write the motion down while Debbie was saying it out loud.
Oh,
Mary Jane.
Mary Jane. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Hopefully you'll make it sound better than what it came out.
Mike Blackwell, to your point, I hear and understand what you're saying. I think this is somewhat of a special circumstance. I don't see it as a big precedent setter, but I think we, it's kind of like we're having to back up just a little bit with movements already made. So I don't feel quite the way you do about it, but I see your point.
Okay, and I do have to clarify one other thing that Adam brought up about the basis of accounting. Yes, the basis of accounting that was audited in 2019 was a basis of accounting. That's the smallest amount of accounting audit that they provide. Now, typically, a government agency follows the generally accepted accounting principles. But
Mike, I'm going to stop you there because I'm a CPA and I've audited for years. And I will tell you that what Adam was trying to say was that from an internal control perspective, nothing was reported by them that was a material weakness or significant deficiency or anything. And I think he was referring to the internal controls, and whatever audit you do, whether it's a cash basis audit, accrual basis, if it's, GAAP, you have to I think that was the point you were making, right, Adam?
Correct.
That there were no internal control deficiencies. And the other thing about this truck is, I mean, it's all over the minutes. It's all over the bond documents. We all said this is what we're going to do.
All right. It has been moved and seconded that when the bond proceeds come in, Adam Casey, our lake manager, is authorized to pay off the loan with People's State Bank. Did I get that primarily correct? That's not exact. Any further discussion? Are we ready to vote? Laura?
Aye.
Michael K?
Aye.
Mary Jane?
Aye.
Mike B?
I'm a no.
Debbie?
Aye.
And I am an aye, so the motion does carry. All right. On to the last of the three resolutions. Adam, this has your initials on it. I'm going to let you go.
Well, our financial clerk with Watkins Accounting did pass away about 2 weeks ago. We do have used her as a financial clerk in Watkins Accounting for our accountant. I think essentially since the Conservancy was formed. And I do know over the last few years, kind of Yvonne's been running the show there while Shirley was the signatory for the financial clerk. They do our payroll, all of our government reporting, annual reports, our allowance of vouchers, tracking the budget. That company is going to continue to go. We also needed to have a financial clerk since they do have one of the signatures on the check for our bonding documents. So I think for a smooth transition and for in the interim, I would like to go ahead and recommend that we announce Yvonne Freeman, who's been working with our documents as long as we've had Watkins Accounting to serve as the financial clerk. That's what this resolution states.
Any thoughts, questions from anybody else? This is not new stuff. We've all seen this. All right. I'll
make one point. I'll make one point. I do think that we need to sit down with Yvonne and really just be sure that she understands the role of financial clerk. So especially because we're approving claims at the back end after they're paid, unless we can kind of think about a way to get them approved at the front end, which might make everybody feel better. But, I think we need to be sure that she understands what her role is and the responsibility, that if Adam provides something and it doesn't have adequate documentation, that she's not just supposed to cut the check, that's what her role is. So I would like for a few of us maybe to have a conversation with her, but I'm fine with this. I think she has been running the show and,
How long ago did her mother pass, Adam?
I believe it was
like days.
Days, okay.
Well,
so maybe we sort of
November 12th. Yeah.
Okay. Maybe give her a little time to, as much as is reasonably prudent for us, but not to push her too hard, just to get through this week or so. And it is a holiday, so.
So what I would move is approval of resolution 11/2011 with the addition that a board officer or designated member of the board have a conversation to review the roles and responsibilities of the financial clerk.
At a time to be determined.
At a time to be determined.
Okay. I believe that was a motion.
I second it.
Thank you, Debbie. Any other thoughts or questions? There being none, are we ready to vote? All right, Laura?
Aye.
Michael K?
Aye.
Mary Jane?
Aye.
Michael B?
I'm a no.
Debbie?
Aye.
And I too am an aye. So that carries as changed, as adjusted. Okay. So that brings us to number 5, the sluice gate dive inspection agreement. And I don't know if any of you noticed, but I was reading along and I thought, gosh, that seems like a lot more money than the last time. And it actually is a couple grand more. It's every 4 years we do this. So Adam was able to confirm for me that I wasn't completely nuts. It was $7,500
It was right around 7,500. We're required to do the dive inspection every 4 years. We have to do the dam and spillway inspection every 2 years. This is mandated by DNR. And actually, we utilize this company. I got their contact information from the City of Bloomington Utilities and Army Corps for their inspections as well. And this company performed the inspections in 2016. It did go up a little bit. I'm not sure if that's just because traveling during the pandemic and whatnot. There's really not many other companies, especially in the local area, that we can find. This company's actually out of Michigan, to work on this. Now, this is just for the dive inspection. We will also have the dam and spillway inspection. That's generally right around $5,000. The last time was $5,200. This is a DNR requirement, and it does need to be accomplished before March 10th. So I'm not sure there's any questions on that.
So this will be budgeted in our next year. It is in our budget, like we've got this money in the budget.
We do have it.
$500 are in the budget.
How much?
5,000.
4,500.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So that one, we when we were budgeting, we only had the dive inspection one other time when I was here in 2016. I was looking at 2 years ago when it was just the spillway and the dam inspection. So this will be, a little bit more than we did have budgeted in that line item for the dam and spillway inspection, because the money that was there just accounts for the dam and spillway, not the dive inspection.
Wonder if you're right, if it's pandemic, the costs of so many things have gone up. I don't know. Yeah, did I understand you correctly? This is the pretty much the only company we can get to do this?
Yeah, there was one other company out of Kentucky that was historically used previous to when I was managing, and they were substantially cheaper, but also every inspection we had from them, they did not inspect the downstream side of the sluice gate because they stated it was a 36-inch pipe and you couldn't dive it. Well, once we brought these guys in, it turns out it's the 40+ inch pipe the entire way through. So we're actually getting inspections on the entire thing now instead of just the upstream side of it. But it is like the only company around this part of the country that does these underwater dive inspections.
Adam, did you say the last time was 4 years ago?
Yes, correct.
Well, so I just did 7,500, 5%, 5%, 5%, and it comes up to $9,100 or something. Okay. So, I mean, I don't know. I mean, part of it, my guess is just the timing. But, okay. In the future, if you think of anything that we've got that, we could have maybe got a quote on this before we finalize the budget. You know what I'm saying? So if there's any other thing big that comes up, we might want to think about it.
That's a good point. All right, you need us to make a motion to approve. Mary Jane, you've been jonesing to make a motion all night, or a second, and I haven't seen you.
I will make a motion that we proceed with the quote for the sluice gate dive inspection and approve that agreement.
Thank you. Second, please.
Second.
Thank you, Laura. All right, it has been moved and seconded that we approve this agreement for the sluice gate for 2021. Any further discussion? Let's vote. Oh, sorry, Mike. Yes. Mike B.
Okay, I didn't know if someone.
Yeah, nice.
Well, I sent an email about getting them to go and do the area by the causeway that's connected to the pond. I didn't know if Adam had got a quote from this company to see what that would cost for them to go over there, or where we are with maybe investigating the pipes that run under the causeway.
Was that
not? I sent out an email in response to that. I have not requested a quote from them. Being engineering divers, they need to have as-built, so they go into existing structures to look at the condition. I think we could probably find somebody more local for much cheaper to kind of go along the causeway if we wanted to and look for potential pipes that are there. I would hate to see the cost. I think it'd be over $20,000 if we were to send this company into the blind to inspect the entire causeway.
What was the rationale for trying to look at the whole causeway? What brought that up? Is it related to another project, or don't we have water quality issues? And would this be handled in the sediment?
Number one.
email.
not the entire causeway.
Yeah.
It's an area behind Doc Miller's house, on the beach, off his beach, and off the causeway. I mean, you can almost triangulate where the point is if you were to hypothetically think a swimmer went down. It's not the entire causeway. You can walk out there. They're really not even diving. They're walking out, and when they find the pipe or whatever it is in the wall, I don't know what it is, but they will walk out, and then when they have their dive gear on, I've been a diver on the fire department for years. You know, so it's not that big a deal now.
But what's the purpose, Mike? What are we looking for, and what raised the issue?
There's always been a concern that the culvert that was installed by Monroe County that goes under the causeway is either too high or not accurate. Not sure what that is, but it's not allowing the two waters to coexist. But there is a pipe that I've been told that bubbles up in the wintertime because of the warm water in the pond and the cold water in the lake. And so it would just be nice, I think, to clarify whether or not the two are in sync. And I brought that up in a summer meeting.
I remember. Well, here's the thing. I think it may not be prudent to try to attach that. This sounds like a different kind of inspector than our sluice gate. Am I crazy?
It's not even worth a phone call to see if they would even go down there. And I mean, are they going
well, certainly. I think we can approve this.
And I'm not against approving the sluice gate. It's just while they're here.
Okay. I think that's a fair phone call. Adam, you guys in agreement with that?
Yeah, I can give them a call and see if that's something that they would do. If it's right near the beach too and not in deep water, I mean, once it gets warm out, something potentially we may.
Here's the thing. I'm going to display my ignorance. So we want somebody to go down and just see if there is a pipe, or see if it's located the high or the low. Like, what are they going to tell us? You know, we know there's a pipe there, and we know we've got water quality issues.
How do you know there's a pipe there?
So the concerns before with the highway department were when they replaced the culvert, it's kind of in the middle of the causeway, and they place it high above normal pool. Based on complaints and talks with the highway department, they went and they put in a secondary large culvert.
They did.
Into the causeway. Now, as far as the mixing of that pond, a handful of small pipes aren't going to provide enough circulation to really have an effect on water quality. You would have to have quite a few very large pipes, or essentially a bridge type causeway to go across it. So why I'm all for looking to see if there's a pipe there. I'm not sure. I mean, we wouldn't have the authority to go in there and replace a pipe ourselves anyway, since it would be the highway department. So I think we could explore it and see if it's there. And I will call them up and ask on that. But
why don't we proceed?
We'll find out the cost.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly. Why don't we proceed with this approval as we were about to do, if that's agreeable, and then agree to pursue. And this actually, Mike Blackwell, gets into the drawdown discussion. If I read your email correctly, you know, we talked about potentially in a drawdown, and I don't know how deep those pipes are, but that might be a time to consider further evaluating those situations that you're bringing up and have brought up before. Does that make some sense?
Absolutely. I'm glad that you
saw that. Yeah.
Good.
Okay. So back to, I believe we were ready to vote on the approval of that sluice gate agreement. Laura?
Aye.
Thank you. Michael K?
Aye.
Mary Jane?
Aye.
Michael B?
Aye.
Debbie?
Aye.
And I too am an aye. Motion carries. Thanks, and we'll keep touch on the further steps with those pipes. This brings us to item 7, which is, I was reminded of this by a freeholder in my district, Kurt DeLong, and if he's listening, thanks, Kurt. I get a handful of requests every year, mostly from people in Kurt's area on Dorothy Lane, which is east of where Tom and I live, as far as considering a drawdown. I was interested, Michael Klitzing, that you also get some, probably for slightly different reasons. In my area, although Kurt is hoping to do some maintenance, they were dredged this year. You remember we had a few issues up that way, but they all are excited, I think, to work on their shorelines and such. But they have the opinion that it can aid them if we get the huge rains in terms of flooding. Now, we are not, as you all know, a flood control responsible. We're not to have to be responsible for that in our lake. That's not our job. But he did bring up a point about potentially considering a lesser drawdown so that they could have a little maintenance and a little protection. So we talked about 3 feet at one time, 3.5 feet. Certainly not an every year thing. You know, as we've been around the block 50 times on the relative benefits or disadvantages of drawdowns. So there's lots of them. Laura, I saw your hand.
No.
Nope. Oh, okay. Mary Jane.
I would suggest that we find out, if it's at all possible, when the railroad might want us to do a drawdown again, so that we could coordinate that, because I know we've had a lot of discussion in the past that they're, you know, while it's great for people to be able to do maintenance in a drawdown, it's not necessarily ecologically great for the lake itself. Right. So if we could avoid doing drawdowns all the time, that would be great. So I don't know if the railroad would divulge that information,
but didn't they want us to draw it down because they had some specific work to do? I mean, wasn't that kind of an anomaly, that request?
I've never seen it before, that's for sure.
You know, that brings, you know, the issue that we got into, I think, at that time was that was maybe an unusual situation, but we had asked at that time, we asked the CBU if they could help coordinate so that if there was some sort of regular maintenance schedule that we could sync up so that we'd work together on that. If we can't do that, then maybe what we need to say to the railroad is, we're going to draw the lake down at this time, you know, and let them know in advance of any approved drawdown, so that we don't end up, for instance, drawing it down next year and then they come back the following year.
Well, the problem when they did it, the timing was awful, because it seems like, did we have to draw it down like right after Labor Day or something ridiculous? Like, people lost time on the lake.
It was like right at Labor Day. They tried to do it even earlier. I believe it was in August, and we got them to push it back until right after.
They actually tried to do it.
It was going to be in March.
They tried to
March
do it
during the season for the crew team.
What, like March or April?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And that's we thought, many of us thought September after Labor Day was a big gain. Not everybody agreed, and that's all right. But that was a tough situation. And I'd like to never be in that again, or have this board be in it. Michael, you did write an email to this effect saying if we were to consider these drawdowns, how we could factor that piece in.
Yeah, I think it's certainly worth trying to engage a conversation with the railroad. I mean, I'm not sure they're always the easiest player to or nicest folks in the sandbox, but if there's a way that we can outreach to them and see, you know, is there a routine schedule every 3 years, every 5 years, whatever it might be, that might be beneficial to them and for their planning purposes, as well as a benefit we can sell to our freeholders too, that say, you know, on this cycle, we'll be able to do this, which gives you, you know, some opportunities to do work on your shorelines.
I also think the secondary question, because I get questions about this too, you know, Adam, I think then we need some sort of research or some sort of paper or something that really states, it's ecologically terrible to do this every year. We can't do it every year, or the most frequent we could do it is every 3 years or whatever, and let our freeholders be able to plan if they're going to do a big project. You know, they know it's coming at a certain time, you know.
I can resend out a document that was created, I believe 2 or 3 years ago, that talked about the benefits and the pros and cons essentially of the drawdown with regard to the environmental. I do believe that the more advanced notice that we give to the freeholders for maintenance needs, the better, in case they need to get contractors out there. Initially, it was done for vegetation control, but actually in the original documents from aquatic control for vegetation, they recommended that we do a late summer drawdown. That way it actually has enough time for the sand to de-water prior to any freeze, which we know isn't going to be possible since we are boating so late into the season. But I would agree, for maintenance purposes, for potentially getting a hold of the railroad and the city of Bloomington utilities, if we planned out, gave them maximum advance notice, you know, potentially a year or the better part of a year to plan out, it'd be better. I also think, you know, potentially if we were to do it next year for maintenance, it'd be plenty of notice, and it'd be a good time for us to actually get eyes on the substrate after the dredging project goes on. Now the dredging project, well, that's one of the tricky things about the hydraulic dredging, to say, you know, this much has been removed, this hasn't, or this part of the project, because essentially what they have to do to show the sediment removals, they'll have to go out, do a bathymetric survey before the work begins so we can see exactly what's there. After the dredging is done, they come out and do another bathymetric survey, and then they can calculate how much sediment volume was actually removed, and we can make sure they remove that amount. So I think that'd be a good time too, where after they do that, we'll get, you know, statistical analysis. Here's how much was removed, and then we could actually draw it down and get some eyes on the substrate and kind of see what we're dealing with.
Well, whoever we hire, you know, we can ask that question, because I called Adam separately and said, well, would it be good to draw it down? Can we drag some of these trees and stumps and things like that out? I mean, is there coordination that could take place on that east end of the lake with the hydraulic dredging? Like, who knows? But I do think, Adam, that it's fine to resend out that research paper, but I think what this board needs, or the Lake Forest Task Group or whatever, is some sort of a recommendation or understanding or conclusion that it would be bad to do it X frequently, you know. I don't know.
I know we've had documents in the past that did discuss that.
Yeah, we have done actually some pretty substantial research documentation in the past. It's something that's hard to find documentation on, because the only reason for the drawdown is for aquatic vegetation control. And that really only works in northern lakes where you do have a long duration, substantial freeze. So it's hard to find stuff relevant to reservoirs regarding the effects of drawdowns, but we did find some with impacts on sedimentation, and we can do an initial search to try to find some more documentation for that.
Adam, didn't you take some pretty scary videos some years back when we did have the lake either drawn down or it was lower because of lack of rain, and it really showed the erosion that was occurring? This sticks in my brain from 5 years ago. Does anybody remember?
We have quite a bit of videos and pictures from that. And what you run into a lot too is with the riprap depth, you know, in most areas is only about 3 feet. So when you start drawing down to the 4 or 5 foot range, if it rains, that sediment's exposed. And then even as the lake fills up in the wave action, you kind of undercut the riprap. So it really opens up a lot more area for erosion.
Mike Blackwell, did you have a comment on that? I think you've seen some of that footage. Uh-oh, I can't hear you, Mike.
I muted I didn't want you to hear my dogs barking. Yeah, I took the footage. So
okay, I'm sorry I did not give credit to the filmmaker there, but I remember it very distinctly.
I took it off of Ellis Point.
Okay.
And it shows it coming out of the Little Africa Channel and then across Ellis Point, and it shows the actual delta. And I've got 3 years in a row off of Ellis Point, maybe more than that. I'd have to go back. It may be 5 years, but it shows the delta forming year after year after year, and it is almost made contact with Reed Point.
I just remember it really made obviously it made an impression on me because it's still stuck back there in the archives. Okay.
I'll try to share it with you.
And we have the aerial photography too that kind of showed that as well.
Okay.
That'd be great, Mike.
Well, so I guess the message I'm getting is if we're going to do a drawdown, it's something we want to have more notice to give to people. Is that the consensus of the board, as opposed to saying, okay, we should do one now?
That's what I think.
I don't, anybody have a different thought? I know my freeholders are probably going to be disappointed, but I can really see the merit. If we're going to do it and we know there's a downside to it, I'd rather do it and get the most possible benefit in any given year that we can, because we have to give something up to get.
You know, if we're talking about widening the boat ramp, if we're talking about expanding the beach, if we're talking about doing things to the lake, then, or railroad, we need to do all that in one swoop.
Maximize the benefit of it.
Okay. All right. Any other thoughts on the drawdown discussion at this time? Good input, guys. All right. That brings us to public comment. Alex, are you running the show here?
I can, yeah.
Yeah, if you have it up, Alex, go ahead.
So 2 public comments, both from Frank Van Overmeren. He said that past drawdown was when Indiana Railroad was doing railroad work in this area. City of Bloomington is in litigation with Indiana Railroad. May be helpful to schedule something a year away for further follow-up inspection. And then he stated, Indiana Railroad was doing railroad work in area when they required the drawdown. The Indiana Railroad and City of Bloomington are in a legal battle over a past inspection. A next year drawdown would allow legal team a second inspection years apart.
Thank you. Okay. I had heard some rumor of that. All right. Is that it?
I have a comment.
Oh, yes, sir.
So actually this came out of someone from your district, Pam. The Lake Lemon Environmental Cooperative sent out a survey to everyone via the Lake Lemon lines. That survey is due tomorrow. The Lake Lemon Environmental Cooperative is combining with the Brown County Regional Sewer District to form a municipal sewer district in northwest quadrant of Brown County. This will include Trevlac, North Shore, South Shore, and could, eventually connect more places in Monroe County. So it's just a notice so people would get on that Lake Lemon lines and look for that survey, fill out that survey. They will be preparing to submit a grant for the sewer district in January. I was told also that this would take care of, is it called Knob Hill area? So we need to get on there and get that survey done, and it's really simple. Do you want the sewer? Do you not want the sewer? Where do you live? And submit.
And that's via the newsletter. Lake
Lemon lines.
Yeah, and due tomorrow, did you say, Mike?
The due date is tomorrow. Now they'll take it after tomorrow, but the due date is November 20th. I would like to just say, if you didn't get a copy of the Lake Lemon lines, maybe call the office and ask for a copy or something. I don't know how to.
Well, is a survey posted on our website that we could fill out? I don't recall getting that survey.
It was on the lake. Did you get the Lake Lemon lines?
The newsletter?
Yeah, there was a link in the newsletter, Debbie.
Okay.
Yeah.
Kathy McClure could help you.
I know a lot of people don't receive that, and that's why I took this opportunity to at least,
if you notify the office, we can make sure to get you on the mailing list for that and forward that to you.
Thank you, Adam.
Okay. All right. And we did just, the letter did go to Frank on behalf of the Conservancy District that we support that, though we aren't a part of that financially or otherwise. So that he's got that in his hands now. All right. The next meeting will be Thursday, December the 17th tentatively at 6 p.m. Again, it doesn't look good for us to be all together in person, but we will have to wait and see how things play out. My guess is this is going to get worse before it gets better with the numbers that we're seeing. And I just, with that, would wish you all a very happy and safe and healthy Thanksgiving. Stay well, and come back to us safely, and we'll keep you posted about time and way of meeting. All right. Mary Jane, did you have something?
I was just going to say happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
Thank you. Well, thanks you all for your time and for all you do for the Conservancy every day. I do appreciate it, and I don't say it often enough.
Are we off live?
I think we're still live.
I don't think I have a motion to adjourn yet.
Oh, I'm sorry. I did not do that. I had happy Thanksgiving and then I didn't look below it. Yes, may I please have a motion to adjourn? Thanks, Adam.
So moved.
So moved and seconded. All right. Thank you. All in favor? Laura?
Aye.
Michael K.
Aye.
Mary Jane?
Aye.
Michael B.
Aye.